call the audit committee meeting to order. And we get a roll call.
Yes, sir. So all members are present, so we do have a quorum.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate everybody being here today. At this particular time, we will go to item C, where we're reviewing and approve of the minutes. You all should have gotten your minutes over a week ago, but I'll give you a few minutes to take a look at it, see if there are any type of corrections, any comments on our meeting of March 6th, 2025.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a second. Just two, did you find it? So just a couple of wordsmith on the last two paragraphs. So the last,
On page 5.
page
Sorry.
5,
Yeah.
yeah, so, the second to last paragraph in E, he noted one of the larger periodic audits instead of if,
Okay.
and then the next paragraph, as it is reflected in other projects besides, so I would just add that in. And that's just small.
What was that last one? I'm sorry.
Right
So,
before F, isn't it right before F where it says miscellaneous?
yeah, as if reflected in other projects besides audits.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So that's it.
Okay.
So Carl, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's all right.
Paul, you want me to do your motion?
Yes, I have to. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. We got a motion by Carl, second by Commissioner Myers. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now we'll move down to item D, FY 25 audit work plan status and activities. We'll start with item number 1, audits.
Thank you. So just a recap right now of the FY 25 audit work plan, the one we're currently going under for the next couple months anyway. Last on the list is the transit department, which we've been working on since January roughly. And so we have wrapped up our field work and are nearing completion on the actual report itself. So we are tentatively scheduled to have an exit conference with department leadership this month, near the end of this month. After that, that will start the formal 30-day review period by both management and the department to submit formal comments. So our hope is that all of that will take place prior to your June meeting so that we can have it on the agenda for you all in June. As such, and I think is typical, after we have the exit conference this month, and once we start that 30-day period, we will include you on that draft so that you can get advanced knowledge of the audit report. And then the only thing that will change essentially between the time you get the rough draft emailed to you to the point in time where we meet to discuss it in June would just be the addition of the response from management. So, and you'll get that a week ahead of time as well. So you won't see it for the first time in June. You'll have a copy of it a month ahead of that. So.
And just for FYI, just for this committee, after our June voting meeting, the mayor commission, we take a hiatus. So we'll be out of pocket until July 15th when we come back. So commissioners, I mean, we'll still have our meeting. I'll be present for that, but I just want you all to know that we won't be meeting as a commission from after June 3rd voting meeting until July 15th.
Yeah. So that is the status of transit right now. Anybody have any questions on transit? Okay. We are also scheduled already and have the paperwork ready to go for our economic development follow-up. That will likely be initiated again at the end of this month and go into May, and it will result in the same sort of memo and chart of findings and recommendations status that you received for the tax assessor's office a couple months ago. So we'll do that with economic development. And then with regard to our current special project, we did reach out to all of the departments, offices, and courts of the unified government and asked them to update us on their external audits. We closed that survey down essentially, either last week or the week before, and are gathering those responses right now. We should have some of that information for you at the next meeting. As I indicated, in the work plan drafts in front of you, going into next year for a special project will be a continuation, essentially phase 2 of this effort, whereby we set, yeah.
I apologize, my ignorance. What are you referring to when you're going down?
So this, detailed memo. Yeah,
Be right behind the,
Detailed agenda.
behind the minutes call.
I think that's it right there.
Yeah.
We got-
Yes,
we
sir.
got
So we're on, D, the last arrow under D.
agenda, detailed agenda.
Got it. I apologize.
No, you're okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I caught up.
So what we'll intend to do then going into next year is take the data that we received from these surveys, sort of organize it, track it better, and then also work to obtain those documents as well. Because right now it's essentially just gathering the information of who's recently had an audit, what type of audit it was. Some of these audits are not available in digital format. We have to go and find them basically and obtain them. So that'll be a special effort going into next year. So that essentially will finish out this fiscal year for us. I think everything's on time. And now, as part of, this current fiscal year is also the development of the next year's work plan. And so with the chair's permission, we can go into the FY26 work plan. So what you have in front of you, and I apologize afterward, this was me. I didn't put option A and B on the top cover page. Apologize for that. But essentially, when you look at the two different options in front of you, when you look to the charts in the back, you can distinguish between option A as the one that entails the fire and emergency as well as capital projects department versus option B, which is transportation and public works. So those are your difference. B
Say
is,
that one more time.
so A is fire as one of the options, and then B has
And
TPW.
you can see that on the back page.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Okay, thank you.
but otherwise, essentially from the differences in the chart, which include the actual audits, the rest of the material in that document is the same between each option. And what staff did is we took some of the comments we received from last month. Commissioner Myers, for example, I think you asked us to sort of add to some of the definitions of the different audits. I feel like we did that. We added some sentences. We also sort of looked at the chart itself, and with regard to the page-long detailed list of scope for the periodic audits, we sort of summarized that a little bit better, to not give so much emphasis to that, even though we are going to still do all those things in comparison to a comprehensive audit, which doesn't necessarily have that detailed information at the forefront.
I want to, before I
Yeah.
forget, this is my big contribution here.
Okay.
Is just on the charts themselves. Okay, this is just a layout and readability for me. Because what I would like to suggest is, actually, there's 3 things that I'd like to suggest on this. One is that you start out with the type, and then the audit topic and the department.
Mhm.
Really what's important to me when I'm looking at it is the audit topic and the departments.
Okay.
And so the type is I would put the type in the third
Third
column
column.
before the time frame. Okay.
That's fine.
Secondly, both of these start with the development of subsequent years assignments and then the special projects, which really don't have that much in,
Mhm.
they're not as meaty, in what I'm saying. I would suggest putting these 2 at the end, so you're going right to the, like, what the new audits are.
Okay.
And then the third thing is that I know you can figure out how to do this, but I would really like it if these boxes were numbered when they get in the right order, so that you're just like there's a lot of boxes and they feed into one another, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. You could indicate that that is not the order that they're in, or
Sure.
something or other. But I just want to make it as readable and clear as possible for colleagues in the public as they are, but definitely with, you know, I don't have this, anyway, those are my little layout suggestions.
We could do all of those. I think the only reason we really did some of the box arrangements overall is to fit it all on these pages without having unnecessary extra pages.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, no, I
yeah.
mean, I don't, yeah, and you might have done that with the removal of them, but actually the two at the beginning are one page. So just moving those to the end
Correct.
would
Yes,
just move
we
that
can do
page,
that.
right?
Yep.
To the end. So that's easy, but I would also just number them because it's a lot of boxes and a lot of type, but, and get that audit topic at the beginning.
That is all.
Maybe even
workable.
boldface that or something, because that's the, like, that's the meat of it.
We can do that.
Any other questions on the, excuse me, any other questions, pertaining to the plan
On the layout.
and the layout?
Well, I think, real quickly, Ms. Higgins did pass this along to me, and she is correct. One thing that we will change on either version is the workflow itself that's in the document. Sort of right between number 8 and number 9, steps 8 and 9.
Mhm.
We sort of excluded y'all. We didn't put the audit committee, so, we will put a box that fits that in there. That was on me. Not trying to skip over y'all.
Yeah, you don't have, like, we don't exist, huh?
Yeah, so,
On this chart.
we will include y'all. Yeah. That was my approach. Yes. So, and then there were also some just grammatical changes that Ms. Higgins suggested. What we can do is certainly go through those as staff, a quick glance. It's just wordsmithing and sort of taking out unnecessary words, so I appreciate that. We'll take a look at it at staff. It doesn't change any of the actual content. So if there is an approval, it would just be with, potentially those corrections to grammar as seen as appropriate by staff. So I don't think there's anything that is too controversial in there. So, but Ms. Higgins can certainly.
We could have a line by line review of those.
No, let's not do that.
We have donuts and coffee.
So I guess that sort of leaves, if there's no grammar or template questions, basically option A and B. And what we did is we took the suggestions that were offered by this group the last meeting. After going through that list of 10 original audit suggestions, this group sort of recommended that we come back focusing on the fire emergency services. There was the organizational structuring of the government, sort of an investigative audit versus a comprehensive, as suggested by, I think, Commissioner Myers last time, to sort of shorten the time period and just be fact-based for the oncoming new manager, to be able to give them a glimpse of, here are our 40-some departments. This is how they're structured, and in comparison to some of our neighboring jurisdictions as well.
And Gavin, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Three, from this,
Well, you might look at this one, it's very helpful too.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, I can reference that. So fire and emergency services was number 3. That's correct. And then number 6 on the list was the departmental structuring. Again, 6, I'm just referring to where it is, not the actual ranking.
Yeah, on this.
There was also a suggestion about the capital projects department, which is number 7 on the list. We had
These are all in Plan A.
That's correct. And so that's essentially Plan A, and that is based on a comprehensive audit, which is fire. That is an investigative audit, which is the organizational structuring, and that is also a periodic audit of the capital project. So we basically hit all 3 versions in this option, which is why we're also suggesting that option A be the one. That way we keep track with some of our periodic audits, and we also take advantage of some of the times that we're in right now, given the transition to the manager's office with the organizational structuring. And then the fact that emergency services, I'm sorry, not emergency services, emergency management is about, sort of an up and coming program within the fire department, but it's certainly a critical one as well. And so all that in mind, we feel comfortable that these three can be accomplished in the next year. Again, keeping in mind our commitment to also the Public Safety Civilian Oversight Board program. Option B entailed a periodic audit of transportation and public works, which was I think, #1 on the list in terms of just its placement.
Yeah.
And then there was also the land, ACC Gov public land inventory, and the organizational structuring. Again, that one kind of carried over to both options. The one thing I want to point out is there was talk about the BACs the last time. That was my call going forward, that upon talking with management as well as I think it's GOC that has it.
Yeah.
It's basically a duplication.
I'm
The
sorry,
level,
what is GOC?
Government Operations Committee. So the BACs are currently a topic on the Government Operations Committee, which is staffed by 5 commissioners.
Yeah.
And when looking at what they were, talking and discussing, it's almost a mirror image of what we were proposing in terms of scope. And so there was no point in my mind to duplicate those efforts.
So what's it?
I'm on that committee call.
Okay.
So what we're looking at is possibly eliminating some of those BOCs, or either combining.
I mean, I'm sorry, not good for the record, not good in the
Yeah.
sense they should be eliminated,
Right.
good in the sense that y'all are
We're
looking.
looking at, or either looking at combining some of those bills. So we got, for community this side, we got a lot of them.
Yes.
Now, some of those BACs put together years ago. They're not functional. Some of them was put together because of when we got the ARPA money.
Mhm.
Some of those things will automatically go away.
Well, and wasn't there a comment, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Sure.
And wasn't there also a comment made the other night by somebody about land use that y'all, I think,
Land bank.
Land bank.
Land Bank,
Yes.
I think Commissioner Link made a comment that someone had looked at it, because they were
We're
talking
looking-
about selling it.
The same,
That's another thing.
the same
Correct.
committee
Right.
is looking at the land bank.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
so both of those are on the GOC, Government Operations Committee. And Commissioner Davenport chairs that particular committee. But we are looking at those two things that the mayor charged us to take a look at. So, yeah.
Are there any other things besides those 2 items that y'all are, I mean, there's no need for duplication. Is there any other
Not
thing?
in terms of what
Right.
we've narrowed down. Those are the only
Those are the
two.
only two.
And the only reason I kept land inventory on option B is I agree. And I think it's very close to duplication. I don't think it's exact. And so the BACs was almost exact. That's why it came off. Land inventory, there's a couple things that we would look at from an audit standpoint that may differ from the land bank authority. But a lot of it, in my mind, it helps justify option A, because option A is full of audits that have not been touched, period, versus option B, which still has that land inventory that is essentially being talked about in some capacity already. So that's why we are still behind option A in terms of our recommendation.
And we have a land bank authority, but it's dormant. There's no committee members that's not, but it's there. So again, we're looking at, should we activate that again? And then of course the commission will have that discussion, then move forward. So we look at land in this community, what we own as a government, what we might purchase moving forward if we come up with that land bank authority.
I'd like to ask, since we have the manager here, on that last one, on number 10, I'm looking on this one here, looking at the areas of interest. Do we need to be doing this or not? ACC Gov is a significant landholder within the county, including both undeveloped and developed parcels used for mostly government purposes, but also leased to quasi-governmental authorities, nonprofits, and businesses. this read the, I'm reading the end here. The tracking of owned and leased property is not entirely the responsibility of one department. And then it says, areas of interest, administration of ACC Gov real estate, standalone function division department, properties with or without structures, occupied versus non-occupied. I mean, in a lot of ways, this seems to me like it would produce a chart,
It would.
right? So is anyone else working on that chart or will be? Because this has come up a bunch of times with the commission in terms of affordable housing, in terms of revenue. Like, I'm wondering, you know, that came up the other day in terms of like getting revenue, more revenue, and it's come up. So I just want to know if this is duplicative. Okay.
So I was gonna say, what I saw at the Land Bank Authority discussion the other day is, I think there is a list that has been produced that fully indicates all the properties that are owned by ACC Gov.
Yeah.
I think in some ways it goes into detail about, is it a vacant property versus is it got a building on it? What it may not do is give you that extra layer of, well, of that building that's on it, is it currently being used, or is it just a vacant building? Is it being used by ACC Gov, or is it being used by a nonprofit or something like that? It may not go into that
Detail.
level, but there has been a list that was produced by, I believe, our GIO
Yeah.
office, that the Land Bank Authority was given.
So my question on that is then, is it in terms of staffing, you're saying, let's put for this forth, we can do this, obviously, you're looking at it very carefully at the staffing and hours involved.
Right.
And, you know, so we're bringing this up in the commission and the manager's office might be going, yeah, but I'm not sure who's gonna do all that, put that together that way. So would it be helpful? And if it is, because it's come up a bunch, I would like to suggest that this what is it, investigative? Just like go at the beginning and get this done and give this to us so that we can all stop kind of in the commission, stop going like, oh, there's this mysterious list, like here it is. Like, I'd like that information sooner than later, rather.
Well, I think though, GOC, I think that recommendation, Commissioner Myers, may come from us, for especially with the staffing piece. Say we activate the Land Bank Authority, then part,
I thought the Land Bank Authority was for the affordable housing.
well, but it also be for person or property. If you read through how the Land Bank Authority works in
Yeah.
some municipalities in the state, they can purchase land, they can buy land, they can do all that stuff.
But do they organize the land of the county or is it just?
Well, they'll get the information probably from our
Yeah.
staff, and
Yeah.
they'll have that, but the land bank, say we do the land bank, we get authority, we get
Right,
5 people to serve as board members. Then we, commission or recommendation may be, okay, we want to have somebody to run that land bank authority. And then that particular individual will be responsible for all the things that you're talking about.
well, and I'm just wondering if if it was on the auditing list and it was put at the front, I mean, for the Land Bank Authority to move forward, it needs that information. So, you know, we're still not talking, the Land Bank Authority isn't set up, there
No.
isn't someone hired.
No.
So that, you know, things don't move really fast. So that could be next, you know, that could be a while off. And then that person would have to get all, you know, this stuff together. So there might be you know, a reason for getting that information, having the audit committee or the audit office, not the committee, do this sooner. So we have that, so a Land Bank Authority has something to begin with and move forward more quickly. That's what I'm just thinking about, because I mean, housing is just a top priority and
It is.
land is, right? And
It is.
so, you know, there's a lot of discussion about,
But
yeah.
they do though, if we're gonna go down that road, there is a lot of information already available for them to get.
Right, so it could be quick.
It could be quick, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, so from a staffing standpoint, though, I think that's where I have to, like, you know, if we were to go this route, it would either be option B, because that's where it's included, or if you were to substitute something from option A in place of this. But what I would hesitate to say is that it's easy enough to just throw on
Oh, yeah,
option
yeah.
A as a 4th audit
Yeah.
and then just tackle that right away. It's not as easy, unfortunately, as
I'm
that.
not right.
Just, and Commissioner Myers, then if we want to push, again, I can always talk to Commissioner Davenport, if we want to move that forward. I think we're gonna try to bring something either July, August to the commission for what we want to do, how we want to move forward with that land bank authority. So I think
It's just that this has come up so many times, so many different commissioners and meetings, like, we have this list, there's all this land, we can't do anything, and it's sort of as a commissioner, and I'm speaking from maybe from a political point of view, so you all can I'd rather us just have the information, so we can stop talking about who has the information, where do we have the information, here it is, and we can move forward. That's
So is that a function of us? Or is that a need of the county and the commissioners is that part of the audit or?
second, it should be the commissioner and our staff.
Okay, because that's what I'm trying, is that
That's what
really an
they-
audit thing? It's definitely a need, but is that a need that is a function of something we should be overseeing, or it sounds like it's a need of you all,
sort of
that
agree
it's
with-
not about us so much as y'all need it done, then we could become an avenue to get that accomplished?
Right.
But should we have to be, or should we be focusing on what our priorities are, and from an administrative lens, you all need to take care of that?
So without putting stuff on the manager, who can certainly speak to this effect, is, I think it's a great question, and I think it's essentially comes down to that, Dr. Thomas, that if it's for information only right now, just to have a list of, okay, without question, here are the properties that Athens-Clarke County owns.
Mhm.
That is something that I think in some form already exists because it was given to the land bank. And it's something that I think under the direction of the manager, staff from one of those departments could produce. If, however, the goal is to then go into that list and start analyzing that list for different factors, that's perhaps where some of the audit would come into place. But that is not again, a quick week-long turnaround. That's analysis.
And let me recommend, and I truly understand what Commissioner Myers talking about. We get bombarded. Pretty much every voting meeting, they have public comment about housing. But what I do want to say is we are looking at it for its properties and what we might can build affordable houses on. And probably, as a matter of fact, Commissioner Thornton is doing all this month is doing housing conferences, trying to engage our community. Tomorrow we're doing a virtual meeting with the local developers to figure out how we can work with them to produce affordable houses. So I think we're going down. I think we're going down the right road. We're probably not moving fast enough, but I think right now I don't want the audit committee to get so caught up in what we should be doing as commissioners and elected officials to get that going. So,
just a question on this. Excuse me for the naivete of some of these things, but first of all, I think one of the things that would help tremendously is to know, okay, the list is blank properties, whatever that number is, 535 different parcels of land. Do we do appraisals of even government-owned property? Is that done by the tax assessor?
Not necessarily. I mean, basically, if you wanted to right now, I can give you a list of how many properties we own. You just go into Q Public, access website, and type in Athens-Clarke County as the owner.
You should just
It'll give you
have a list.
400 some properties.
Right.
I don't think they are appraised, though, to your question, in terms of a value.
Right.
I'd have to look again, but I don't believe that's the case.
Because yeah, I mean, I think that's the only, not the only thing, obviously, but that's where you have to start.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some of the frustration and perception from the community is coming from. And I said this, and I believe in our meeting last month. I mean, it makes people think, wait a minute, you don't even know how many things you have, which we do. Obviously.
we do.
But if we can just say it's X number of properties and our reasonable estimate as to their value are blank, that's where obviously we just need to start. And I agree. I can't imagine it's going to purview of us to then figure out what we're going to do.
Well, no, I mean, of course, it's not the purview of us to figure out what to do with it, but I mean, in terms of, auditing, risk analysis, knowing what we have does seem like a purview of all, I mean, a lot of the things, if you look at the descriptions, you would hope that the, you know, in a sense, in a perfect world, where you have, what's that phrase that's used to go over, internal
Control.
controls,
Mhm.
you know, because I did this in education, you know, you'd be doing this kind of self-reflection and coming up with this yourself in the perfect world. But none of us live in that perfect world where you'd be looking at your overall management, you know, in your, you know, you'd be doing your Department of Transportation, you'd be stopping and reflecting on it, what you're doing, strengths and weaknesses. And this kind of pushes this along here. So, you know, the list isn't I mean, the having the other information, I mean, if you're looking on this thing, okay, again, they're not, I mean, it's a standalone function. I mean, I don't mean to be, like, where's the analysis? This seems like a list. I mean, it's like occupied versus not occupied properties with their what, you know, I mean, a lot of this sounds like factual information, getting more columns in the chart, right? And the fact of the matter is that with the land, like we've been told that a lot of that land is not usable. And because it's a little sliver, it's like really, you know, you know, there's lots of little pieces that are left over or it's not buildable and such. So knowing what's usable. So I don't really care whether it's the audit department or the
GLC.
or the GOC or the staff. But I mean, a lot of the things that we do here, a department could be doing itself anyway. I'm really more concerned about there just being the staff to do this. And right now we're in a big time of transition. And this is the kind of thing our manager's office is pulling stuff from different places, you know, is very short with people who are interim. So that's where you guys are nicely, fully staffed, functioning. No, sorry. You know, fully function full time. So anyway, that's it. I can go either way. I just want to like put that out there.
I think though, from our great discussion, again, I don't want to put so much on our operations analysis department to deal with that, especially with stuff. And again, it's not a duplicate, but we are trying to deal with that through GOC. So I think we can move it down, Commission Myers, but then keep it on our radar and just see what comes out of us from GOC moving forward. And then we need to come back to the table with us. Say, hey, maybe we need to do an analysis of this with that. So if you just give me a little bit more time to get that going. And I almost there with talking Commissioner Davenport so we can get this moving. Because in our last two meetings, that's been the topic of our discussion, the land bank and authority, what we're gonna do with it. So I think July, August is gonna come before us.
I just know, I just know it took like 5 months to do an invasive species ordinance. So
I feel you. And again, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but for us, what's good in this community, we don't have a whole lot of blighted structures and stuff that we can buy. So that's a good thing for us. You go to other cities and municipalities, you see all these boarded up buildings and stuff. If you look around Athens, we don't have a whole lot of them. So that's a good thing. So any land that we got, any structure that we own, those are things that we can really concentrate on and see whether or not we can build on some of those properties for affordable housing. So I think the story continues.
So we're back to are you looking for a recommendation from us?
We are. So in order to, from a scheduling standpoint, essentially we would really like a vote today because this is the last time in order to get on the agenda for the mayor and commission in June. And then with the hiatus that they take in the summer, anything other than today for a vote by you all will put our work plan first in August at the earliest, which that's a month already gone then from next year's work plan that we could really use. So
yeah, the only thing on here is I'm listening to Beth in my head from a month ago, talk about large department, and I look at that transportation and I see that total budget of $21 million and think of all the parts of there that, it makes me kind of want to go there. I definitely think the organizational structuring, which is in both, is good, so that's fine.
I'm sorry, I was just giggling because I was thinking, yeah, and all the parts and other stuff they use and all that, all those buses just went up by 25%.
Yeah,
It's got more expensive.
Exactly.
so
Yep.
the organizational structure, for the record, is, it's not only good for any new manager, but it's also good for the commission, because a new manager might come in with ideas and it'll give us some comparative analysis and data to work from.
And on the heels of our annual, I think it's annual, Judy, it might be every other year, but essentially the government re-examines its organizational charts for all of its departments. And those are sort of left up to the departments to try and sort of switch around as necessary each year, and then they're sent to the manager's office for approval. We just did that within the last month. I think they were completed, and so that would be essentially not only good for the new manager coming on board, but as an analysis to make sure that some of these changes that occur from year to year are examined, because it's not necessarily that those are picked up upon every single year by the manager's office. Essentially, it's just a sign and leave it up to the directors to decide how they run things. So,
Organizational
yeah.
design is probably one of the most complicated
Yeah.
analysis that you can do. So that's
Sure.
going to be a really interesting process. Yeah.
I'm good with A now. I mean, I've got like capital projects here, which is overseeing the SPLOST and not the individual projects, but I think that's gonna get a lot of attention. It'd be good to get some independent, fairly independent, objective analysis would be helpful for everyone, and that does include a total budget of $10.4 million.
Well, and I want to clarify that too. So we put those budget numbers on as requested based on what is actually allocated to these departments.
Right.
When we're talking about a periodic audit of capital projects, we're talking about the capital projects department.
Yeah,
Now, obviously, they oversee T-SPLOST and SPLOST programs, and we will certainly incorporate as appropriate some of those things. This isn't going to be an individual audit of every single
Right,
SPLOST project.
right.
This is of the department function. The budget for that department is 10 million. That does not obviously include the 100 million that they help oversee in terms. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yes. And then for fire, for example, I know the budget may look small. That, though, too, can be an indicator of whether an audit is appropriate, because is that enough, essentially, when you're talking about emergency management and the fact that it, is a small program within a division of fire, and that's essentially what's allocated to pay for that person's salary and some equipment. Is that something that an audit will help reveal as an appropriate amount to be spent on emergency management, or does this government necessitate more?
Well,
Literally, life and death.
and when, Beth was making reference to, or you were to increase prices for items with new, one of the other things we're hearing is the weakening of FEMA and the federal emergency service, with the idea that it's going to be put down to the state. I assume, we're going to have that. I mean, I think that's the indication, which means that, that our local level really, we need to really, I mean, I think that puts a little importance on that in my mind.
Also, what I'll add is each one of the ones in option A, emergency management, departmental structuring, and capital projects, none of those have ever been audited, period. Transportation public works, although it is a big budget and should be regularly audited, and will likely stay on the list again when we talk about this next year, has been audited 3 times in the last 20 years.
Which one?
Transportation. Yes. Now it has certainly been a couple years since the last audit, but when we're talking about overall government and trying to touch each department as appropriate over the last 30 years and looking
Yeah.
at which ones just haven't even had an audit period, that's sort of what rose to the top
And
also
then,
for
now,
us.
I mean, just for the listening audience, I mean, those audits were of the whole department. They were of streets division and erosion control practices. So, I think that's a little, just to clarify that for
Oh,
the listening public who are out, like,
sure.
listening to this while they do their exercising. So, but we'll put that on next
Okay.
year.
So,
I think
Anybody gonna yell at me if I make a motion to approve?
What?
Jay, Beth? Well,
yeah,
We all
it's
look
cool.
at that.
I miss these things. I'm good at missing stuff. I was kidding when I said that. I'll make a motion to approve, option A.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
all in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes.
I do think that if we, next year, when we do the budget development, the limitations on the audit department is its own, like all the departments, is its own staffing and its own budget. And I think for some of these big ones, especially when we're looking at the biggest department that hasn't been touched, which we didn't want to touch because of the other concerns about looking at the central services, is to look at when we come up with budget next year, when you start doing your budget development next year, that we have some conversation here on the audit committee to be able to
Yeah,
provide resources to be able to have external assistance if we want to do a big or complex or one that really would take all your assets for the entire year if we really wanted to do it and do it right. That we I mean, there's a couple of different options to try and resource audit. You have the state audit resources that may come to assistance if you asked. Other communities that you could do reciprocal audits on. So if you had some concerns that there was maybe conflicts of interest with, in this particular case, going back to your own department, that you could do reciprocal audits. Of course, we have the University of Georgia all the time with they have an amazing accounting department, one of the best in the world.
Very good point.
That would love to be able to assist in something that's, you don't want to touch the kind of the fraud part because you don't have the expertise in that. But they have a whole part that I couldn't even get into when I tried to take the courses in the forensic accounting and fraud analysis, which is very complex, but they have a whole, like I say, people that are so there are other ways to be able to access resources in order to increase the ability of the audit department to get more done if we can, given the resources and the limitations that we have.
I would agree with, not interrupt, I would agree with that. That next year is gonna be year 3, and I mean, I'm not in the spot that we sure get the duties over the last 2 years. The next year will be year 3 of getting this reconstituted, and it's time to tackle one of these big things.
Well, and I don't disagree, and I agree with, Beth's ideas. I think the only hesitation we had, again, is because of just the timing of this right now.
Right.
I have no hesitation going into next year to tackle those big departments as our staff can. That there's the timing and limitations on that would have expired essentially for our department. So that shouldn't be an issue. I hesitate, obviously, and we can talk about it at the time, to commit to anything in terms of external auditing consultants, just because of the budget. I mean, we're going into something that's going to be tight. I doubt it's going to be any better going into next year. And, in my conversations with the mayor, and I think to a degree he's certainly right, this office functions for this purpose, and I hesitate to call on consultants sometimes when it's something that we are capable of doing. And quite honestly, when we're talking about a forensic audit, that might be different, but a periodic audit of what we do, I think takes an insight from staff that a consultant is not going to have. I've dealt with many consultants in my time, and I'm not saying all of them are bad or anything like that, but there is a huge amount of effort on staff's part yet when hiring consultants, to the point where I might as well have done it myself if I'm gonna put that much effort into watching somebody do it and answering all those questions, and then also write a check for $100,000 on top of it. So, although that doesn't eliminate that conversation going forward, and there are other avenues that maybe not, there's no monetary exchange. I can assure this group that, you know, those larger departments, when we come to this process next year, are not going to be off the list, and those are going to be capable under our jurisdiction, from a staffing standpoint. So, okay.
Okay. Go ahead and move forward. There's no more comments, on IB. So we done item E. We okay. Yeah, and turn off, okay.
Yes.
Item F, turn on all this update.
Okay. So, speaking of our other duties, Peace Cobb is, you know, in our opinion, working well. A year and a half now, almost 2 years into it. They have launched their second survey, so staff has been working on that right now. Still working on any complaints that come in, as well as a policy review that they have suggested, so we're researching that. They've also already conducted an outreach event, or participated in one, and there's a second one later this month that we are helping them with as well. And so that continues, and staff's hours continue to be, you know, roughly around that 2 full-time weeks a month, that about 80 hours at least on average that we're still spending on that section of what we do. So any questions on the
Well,
Peace
I'm
Corps?
gonna, you know, just for the open discussion, just keep it, thinking about it. I mean, as we're talking about audits, that we've had a lot of comments about Peace Cobb coming before us from the public, sometimes internally from colleagues and such. And as I'm just thinking, you know, in terms of our ability to review that, I guess it was going on 3 years. Maybe this is something that's coming up in your back, you know, discussion, but is there any review? How do we review, how do we do, in a sense, an audit, a periodic evaluation of Peace Cobb or something like that, to figure out where its strengths and weaknesses are, effectiveness. But, you know, it's taking your time. Now we're getting discussion from the public, and maybe this is not the audit committee meeting, maybe this is a commissioner meeting, but in terms of having because it is so political, a sort of more objective review of it, how do you get that done, or is that even possible?
I think it's Commissioner Myers, I think it's twofold. And I'm an ex officio. I don't say anything, but I do go to local meetings. Twofold. First of all, we got, if the public is listening, we got 4 openings right now on Peace Corps. So I would encourage people, if they have an interest, to apply.
Out of how many?
9,
Nine, yeah,
3 of which do have incumbents though.
right.
So
And they may reapply. So my second thing is, and when we had the gentleman from Atlanta to come talk to us about Peace Corps, and unfortunately, we such a microwave society, want things to happen. Then I still think they're still trying to work through things and try to build on that. One of the things is, you know, how many complaints do we get? You know, before we ain't got stuff, so they had all these complaints. That many complaints have not came in for whatever reason. Maybe the public is not aware, but I know it's out on our website. Gavin's point, we go to these resource fairs, try to get information out there. So hey, if you have an issue with any public safety organizations, this is the where you can go and get through the information. It's on our website. The application is on our website. Now, you do have to get it notarized. I know a constituent came up, said they couldn't find them, they couldn't find it. But it is on the website. You do it, but you have to get it notarized. So that means you got to print it off. and get it notarized and then get it back to us. So that's the only really paper trail that you gotta do. But I think as we continue, as Peace Corps continue to grow and we learn the good and the bad about it, I think it'll get better. But we're still in a infancy stage.
Mhm.
Now, I just think those things gonna take some time. You know, some of this community has never done
Mhm.
before. Other communities have been in Atlanta, they 15 years ahead of us. They got a whole department of 8 to 10 people. That's what they do. I mean, that's what they do. So we haven't got there yet, but I think we're on the way. We probably, to your point, Commissioner Myers, there's something we need to adjust and fix, take a look at. How can we do things better? Well, I can tell you though, for whatever reason, we had not been getting the complaints that we thought we was gonna get. Now, what does that mean? I don't know.
Well, and I appreciate Commissioner Fisher talking about that. And I mean, to Commissioner Myers' point about how this interacts with your purpose here today, obviously, you all share staff with Peace Corps. You know, we work both ends. With regard to an audit of Peace Corps, I mean, the good part is you have an audit department that essentially is the staff for
Yeah.
Peace Corps. If you ever want an audit, you just let us know. Like we can talk to you about it. We don't even have to. I mean, I can give you an audit in hours time. But I think what's important when we talk about Peace Corps in relation to the audit committee is, you know, first of all, not to negate anyone's complaints that are at the mayor and commission meetings, but I'm there as well, and I hear the same complaints. And I'll be
a second. What are the complaints?
Well, so I think there are operational complaints that sometimes come up. And, you know, I can certainly go into more detail as needed with some of that stuff, but I'll be honest, and I told this to Commissioner Fisher the other day. Some of the concerns that sometimes get raised at the mayor and commission level are the first time I've ever heard of it. No one has reached out to me about
Oh, yeah.
some of these concerns, and some of them I don't even know what they are because they're just blanket statements that there's an issue with Peace Corps. What is that issue? I don't know what it is.
I mean, we're saying that there's not an easy way to do this. Why
Sure.
does Peace Corps even?
It came up in the, it came up in
Yeah.
it came up to tonight that it's hard to find Peace Corps and hard to get the information, hard to do the paperwork. It's not the case. It's on our website. I think the piece that's got missing, and I know the constituent, I'm gonna talk with him. Thing is, you got to get it has to be notarized.
You had to print, there isn't an online
Correct.
way of
Yeah.
submitting it.
And that is a legal requirement.
Yeah,
by
that's
our
not a way
attorney.
that you can submit it online. It has to be printed out, and that was part of when we had the structure. It had to be notarized once it comes back to them if there's a complaint.
I'm sorry, Gavin, does the attorney's office say that we have to have a
That
written
is correct.
record,
Yes.
or it has to be?
Well, and it has to be essentially notarized because you're confirming that you are the one submitting this complaint.
Right.
You know, when you're dealing with issues of public safety misconduct and naming officers and
Right.
accusing them, you have to be swearing to the fact that this is honest and true based on your opinion, essentially. That
Yeah,
you're not just submitting this paperwork because you don't have anything better to do and you're making false accusations.
exactly. I mean,
So-
this is not something that should be taken.
That's correct.
Right.
And so that's the stance of our attorney's office. But what I would say is if at any point in time the commission has questions about Peace Corps, I'm more than happy to answer them. I have not gotten those questions yet. And to Commissioner Fisher's point, this was not a startup and 0 to 100 operation.
Yeah.
This is something never done in this community before. Quite honestly, although Atlanta has one, you know, this is a rarity in Georgia. And it's unfair to compare us.
International city.
Sure, it is
Bigger.
unfair in my opinion to make apples to apples comparisons.
Also having their own, I mean, they've also been in the news as well.
Well,
right?
correct,
Right.
yes. And so, the thing is that in my opinion, this staff, all three here have done an excellent job at starting a program from scratch. Although Peace Corps has been in existence for about 3 years, it has only been staffed since we came on board. That is less than 2 years. And when I say start from scratch, I mean, There were no forms, there were no
Yeah.
policies, there were no procedures, nothing. We worked with Peace Corps, who has done a great job to create those things. That stuff takes time, but they're all functional.
Mhm.
We do not solicit for the sake of just doing so complaints, just to get our numbers up. That is unfair. It's quite honestly illegal. But any hope that, well, we're just looking at complaints and there's not enough complaints coming in. Clearly you're not doing your job because the numbers aren't there. We don't go out and tell people like, I'm going to force your hand and file a complaint. That is not our job.
In the last 12 months, how many complaints roughly have you had?
There have been, I believe, 5 formally submitted complaints, of which 3 were actually heard at the Peace Corps level, and that is by their justification as well as by law. So,
Well, I mean, and I certainly don't mean to diminish anything Peace Corps is doing or any of the complaints these people are making. Nothing is perfect, especially police force the size of Athens-Clarke County. But it should also be looked at. Well, this is also kind of a positive.
Well, yeah,
That we're not
and
having very many of these complaints.
yeah, on the other hand, without naming specifics, I mean, I think we have something going on here where, there was another comment not going, I think on our side of the rail, there was a discussion where it was like, oh, we can't get any, there aren't enough police over here in this part of the neighborhood, which is a white, wealthier neighborhood. And someone else, commissioner, saying, well, there's plenty over in our neighborhood. Why don't you come over here because they're always here? So I think there's a lot of tension. There's still tensions around the police and whether or not people are. I mean, I don't know. Maybe people are getting their complaints in or not, and of course we hear the same thing. I mean, I hear complaints about things all the time where I'm like, I never heard about that. No one ever contacted me on that. But so there is the question is there even, if you listen to our community, our meetings, there's a lot of distrust of the government. Right. So, I mean, in terms of people feeling, even trusting of getting involved in that, or following up. I mean, I don't even know. So I don't know the answer, but I'm saying I don't think it's as simple as, well, there are no complaints because there are no issues out there.
And I'm not trying to say there's no.
Yeah.
Believe me.
No, so I mean, I think that's part of what we're hearing there. Anyway.
I was gonna say, I went to help with that outreach event we went to recently, and a lot of it, at least, was people are just unaware about the board. So I think now, like there was at least 40 people that learned more about the board, learned more about the complaint form, and I know the board wants to do a lot more of that.
We also, like commissioners, you're actually going to get it either today or tomorrow, an email from me with the recently approved FY25 work plan for Peace Corps. And so when you earlier stated, what is sort of that summary of how things are going and where are we at and what have we done, you're going to get the updated one this week. We also we'll post that on our website, and the one from last year is also posted on our website, and that summarizes not only what the board actually accomplished, how many complaints they did, how many surveys, outreach events, things like that. It also lists the goals that they have for the next year as well. So in my opinion, I mean, again, if there are ever any questions about Peace Corps, I am happy to answer those. And I do give credit to that board though for the work that they have performed in a short period of time when you think about what it takes to start a program from scratch. So
and they do it very good. Yeah. Could we have a little bit more diversity on that? Of course we can, but again, that's why we're encouraging and really trying to get people to apply, regardless, because it's nonpartisan. We want people to look at these things when the complaints come to give their opinions on these things. Our police department is always there. Somebody's there from the sheriff's department, corrections. So all our public safety is represented there. So again, they hear the same thing that we're hearing in those meetings. And I think that committee does a good job not taking any of that work lightly. They want to make sure that they respond to the complaints that we get and get back to them as soon as possible. So again, but I think now some people may not feel comfortable filing a complaint because they feel like, well, nothing gonna happen. So again, so you don't know, that could be 50 things that might happen to people within our community,
Mhm.
but they just didn't report it. And we wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
So,
The last thing I'll just say regarding Peace Cobb is, as the board continues to evolve, and if there is a desire by commissioners to sort of take it to the next level or make some changes of some kind, obviously that's within their purview. I do think, and I've stated this, to the mayor as well as others, that our role has to be balanced as auditors, which is under, in the purview of this group, with our role as Peace Cobb. As auditors, by ethical and professional standards, our job is to maintain objectivity and to perform that analysis and not necessarily be involved in the implementation. That's like textbook, pulled it right out of the standards. Peace Cobb, in its current function, allows us to still maintain that neutrality of, here is the information, the board is making the decision, we are just a pass-through from a communication standpoint and coordination. At the point where that changes and the balance tips to where our staff is expected to now advocate on behalf of or follow through on implementation of certain things, that puts us in a precarious position, because we have a legitimacy to maintain with this government, where we are neutral and everyone in these departments knows we are neutral, and we're bringing up that objectivity, as opposed to all of a sudden then be involved in some of our departments like public safety, where we're now not neutral and we're implementing things and telling people to do things. And that in my opinion causes a problem. And that's something that we will just have to work through as things go forward. But that's where this board would also come in to play as well.
Well, not to make it go for another hour
Yeah.
conversation, but I never particularly understood why Peace Cobb is in the auditor's office.
well, that was something that we as commissioners made that decision. We don't. I'm be honest, we didn't know where it goes. I mean, we wanted to have Peace Corps have complete independence, not be so heavy-handed from elected officials. That's why we got citizens on this particular committee. Let them make those decisions. But
Right, and in terms of that, like if it's under the, I mean, there are three choices. It's completely independent,
right,
that it's under the manager, well, it could be under the attorney too, right?
right, yeah,
But it's under the manager, which wouldn't make sense because the manager is also over the police department, the sheriff department.
right.
So, that left this, because it's not even a full-time
Right.
job,
So
right?
now, what would happen? Take it the Atlanta model. They're under. They got their own. They're under no one. They're complete independent.
Entity,
Thank you.
yeah.
Complete entity.
Interesting.
So they don't report. I mean, they report to elected officials, but they're a completely different entity. So, with that said, because we're a smaller community, we had to put it somewhere. And at that time, with the commission, 10 of us and the mayor thought that would be the best place. Now, if we grow, then one day, 2 years from now, that may be the case. But right now, that's why it's there.
And we are perfect. Like I said, I don't want to cause an idea that we can't handle what we have. Like I feel like we do a good job of operationally handling Peace Cobb. I'm just saying, for future reference, where discussions with this board would come more in depth with Peace Cobb is if those roles were to change. But that's
And because no, I mean, and I don't mean to imply that
Yeah.
you can't handle the job, but I mean, even before you made that comment, I thought myself, because of the audit side of the job, which is your primary responsibility, how that is going to create some conflicts with the Peace Corps side if you do have an issue that does now have to be held. And I get that, we're only talking about a few of these instances. You can't pay somebody a salary to do this job at this point. We gotta put it somewhere. But you have to do the best you can.
Yeah.
Next, the only other thing I have, Chair, on there is the calendar outlook. So as of right now, anyway, with the approval of the work plan, and the fact that the final version of the transit audit will not be ready for the May meeting, the necessity of a May meeting. And I think also then to just talk about the July meeting as well, given the fact that, the commission, you know,
June. So,
well, June, we would still probably meet as an audit committee. Because that's that same week that your last commission meeting. is.
Right, right.
But July, I know from a staffing standpoint, we will also have some, we tend to work on the same calendar as the mayor and commission. And so that's the time where staff takes some vacations, but also two of our board members maybe as well. So, that would be the only other topic, is if this board wanted to take action on next month's meeting and potentially July.
I make a motion to cancel
July meeting.
our May meeting and our July meeting. Cause he said May meeting the next month, right?
Yeah, next month
then
and
this
then
meeting.
also July.
Yeah,
And we would meet
right,
in
May and
June.
July, meet in June and August.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Sorry,
go
before
ahead.
we
You
go.
wanna meet?
Yeah, I want to meet. I hate being
Yeah.
away from you all.
Mm-hmm.
The June meeting, that would be June
That,
fifth.
yeah, the first Thursday. Yes, I believe that's correct.
Is it at all possible that we could meet on that Tuesday? Or is that problematic? Or the third?
That's problematic.
That's problematic.
That's our voting meeting and we'll be voting on the budget.
Oh, so y'all are here all day that day. Okay,
Well, we're not here all day, but
it's a stressful
yeah,
day.
it's like we're,
Yeah.
That is fine.
We're home.
I gotta get this cartlet prepared in my hand on the fourth, so I will not be able to be
Okay.
here on the fifth.
Okay.
I
So
understand.
that's fine. I will be out.
And we'll zoom in.
Zoom in, zoom in, that'll work. So I will not be here in June, so,
Okay.
okay, so now we can motion and second about May and
do
July.
we have a quorum though?
We have
Three
of
is
them.
a quorum.
Three,
Okay.
4 of us.
So the rest of
Okay.
you all are here. I just wanted to put, okay,
Okay,
okay.
So there was a motion by, Mr. Blunt.
Mhm.
Yeah,
By Commissioner Myers.
okay.
Right.
Good enough for me.
yeah, that's good. I think I made the motion, but
All
it's
right.
okay.
All in favor
All right.
and opposed?
Okay.
Okay, so we cancel that. I like this.
So
With
May
that
and July
said,
council, and I'm
If
out.
nothing else, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right.
Meeting adjourned.
So I'll see y'all in August. Have a good summer.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Carol, I got to run reference. Can you stick around?
Well,
for
thank
me?
you
Yeah,
all.
sure.
I appreciate the time today. Thank you all for your
And
support.
please get a donut or some more coffee.
Yes.
And happy birthday. Enjoy
happy
your day.
birthday, yeah.
Tell Audrey I said hello.